President Biden has joined the press briefing. Perhaps take a victory lap on some of the economic news.
The expectation was for 150,000 jobs in September, which has far exceeded that number. Not only the previous 2 months was the previous 2 months was revised up 75,000 jobs. And from the very beginning, we were told time and again that the policies we were pursuing, we'd put forward weren't going to work, make things worse, including some of the other team are still saying they're going to make things worse. But we've proven them wrong. You know, we've told our we were told our American Rescue Plan was too big and it would crowd out private investment. We proved them wrong. We vaccinated a nation and got immediate economic relief to people in need. When I came to office determined to end trickle-down economics and grow the economy from the middle out and the bottom up. I know you're tired of hearing me say that over and over again, but that was a policy, that it remains a policy. Because when you do that, everyone does well. When the middle class grows, the nation's stronger. And the nation's stronger when there's a strong union movement as well. We were told it wouldn't work, but I was also determined to do what was ignored for much too long. Presidents have been authorized since the 30s to be able to spend the money given by Congress to spend the money on hiring American workers and using American product where they were available. And that's what we did. We were told that was going to be a big problem. But all the money I was authorized to spend by the Congress has gone to hiring American workers and using American products. We were told it wasn't going to be, we were told that was going to be a big problem, but it's working. We're also told that our historic laws to invest in America and all Americans would crowd out private sector investment. Well, that was proven wrong, too. We've attracted nearly $1 trillion since we've come to office in private sector investment from domestic and foreign companies investing in America, Not this stuff of shipping jobs overseas for cheaper labor and bringing back a product to America. We're building it here and sending it overseas. And look at the results. Across the board, unemployment is down to 4.1%. And every month that Vice President Harris and I have been in office, we've created jobs every single month. The nation has now created 16 million jobs since I've come to office, more jobs created in a single presidential term than any time in American history. Our GDP shows our economy grew at 10% under my administration. Unemployment reached the lowest level in 50 years. We're also told inflation couldn't come down without massive job losses or sending the economy into economic recession. Once again, outside experts were wrong. Inflation has come down. Wages have gone up faster than prices. Interest rates are down. Record 19 million new business applications have been filed for. The stock market continues to reach new heights. We've got more work to do, though. Keep getting prices down, like more affordable housing, extending what I've done for seniors and lowering prescription drug costs by letting Medicare negotiate the prices, make sure that's available to everyone. And by the way, what we've done so far, just when we brought down the prices for seniors under Medicare, it's saved the taxpayers billions of dollars. Billions of dollars. Saved the taxpayers billions of dollars. That's important to note, because they don't have to pay the exorbitant and irrational prices that these companies are charging. The simple fact is we've gone from economy in crisis to literally having the strongest economy in the world. And but we've got more work to do. We've got more work to do to deal with the things I've just mentioned, and we're going to have to deal with unforeseen cost of what this hurricane is going to cost. It's going to cost a lot of money. And I'm going to probably have to ask the Congress before we leave for more money to deal with some of those problems. But that remains to be seen. I'll take a few questions before I turn it over to you. Pick up people.
Okay. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Josh.
Thanks again for doing this, Mr. President. 2 questions. The first, Florida Senator Marco Rubio described today's jobs report as having fake numbers. What do you make of that, and how worried are you that many Americans are hearing that the jobs numbers aren't real?
Look, I'm going to be very careful here. If you notice, anything the MAGA Republicans don't like, they call fake. Anything. The job numbers are what the job numbers are. They're real. They're sincere. They're what we are. And by the way, just look at how the EU talks about us, how they like to have an economy like ours. Let's talk about the rest of the world looks at us and what we're doing. So well, I don't want to get going.
And then secondly, could you clarify some of your comments yesterday with regard to strikes on Iranian oil facilities? What did you mean by them, given some of the reactions we're seeing in the market?
Well, look, the Israelis have not concluded what they're going to do in terms of a strike. That's under discussion. I think if I were in their shoes, I'd be thinking about other alternatives than striking oil fields.
Good, Wisha.
Thank you, Karine. Thank you so much, Mr. President, for being here. This week, Senator Chris Murphy said it's certainly a possibility that the Israeli government is not going to sign any diplomatic agreement prior to the election, which is what you have been calling for so long, potentially to try to influence the result. Do you agree? Do you have any worries that Netanyahu may be trying to influence the election and that's why he has not agreed to a diplomatic solution?
No administration has helped Israel more than I have. None. 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 And I think Bibi should remember that. And whether he's trying to influence the election or not, I don't know, but I'm not counting on that.
You've said many times recently that you want to speak to him, that you plan to.
No, I didn't say plan to. I didn't say want to.
You don't want to?
No, I didn't say that. You're making it sound like I'm seeking and speaking. I'm assuming when they make the decision of how they're going to respond, we will then have a discussion.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for being here. What are you advising the Israelis to do in terms of their retaliation to Iran? And at this point, you still haven't spoken to Netanyahu. Is it fair to say that you have little personal influence over what he decides to do?
No. Look, our teams are in contact 12 hours a day. They're constantly in contact. I've already had my presidential daily brief. We've already had interface between our military, the diplomats. It's in constant contact. They are trying to figure out, this is high holidays as well. They're not going to make a decision immediately. And so we're going to wait to see when they want to talk.
But over the past few months, they've consistently defied your administration's own advice. So do you believe that the Israelis are going to listen to the advice you're giving them?
What I know is the plan that I put together received the support of the UN Security Council, the vast majority of our allies around the world, as a way to bring this to an end. Look, the Israelis have every right to respond to the vicious attacks on them, not just from the Iranians, but from everyone from Hezbollah to Houthis to anyway. And but the fact is that they have to be very much more careful about dealing with civilian casualties.
So how should they respond? You expressed concerns about attacks on Iranian oil facilities. How should they respond?
That's between me and them.
All right, we got to move on. Go ahead, Tam.
The election is a month away. One, I'd like to know how you're feeling about how this election is going. And then also, do you have confidence that it will be a free and fair election and that it will be peaceful?
Two separate questions.
Very much.
I'm confident it'll be free and fair. I don't know whether it will be peaceful. The things that Trump has said and the things that he said last time out when he didn't like the outcome of the election were very dangerous. If you notice, I noticed that the vice presidential Republican candidate did not say he'd accept the outcome of the election. They haven't even accepted the outcome of the last election. So I'm concerned about what they're going to do.
Are you making any preparations, getting security briefings related to domestic security?
I always get those briefings.
All right, we got to move on. Go ahead, Keila, and then we have to do a couple more.
Hi, Mr. President. When are you considering imposing sanctions on Iran, and would you include oil in those sanctions?
That's under consideration right now, the whole thing. I'm not going to discuss that out loud.
And just on your comments yesterday on the port strike, you said by the grace of God, it's going to hold? Is there any reason you think that this
Well, there's more to
temporary
do. In a
suspension?
month from now, there's more to do in terms of everything from the whole notion of mechanization of the ports and the like. There's more to resolve.
Good, Daniel.
Thanks, Green. Thank you, Mr. President. Last night you said that there's still a lot to do to avoid an all-out war in the Middle East. I mean, firstly, aren't we pretty close to that definition already? And secondly, what can you really do to stop that happening?
There's a lot we are doing. The main thing we can do is try to rally the rest of the world and our allies into participating like the French are in Lebanon and other places to tamp this down. But when you have proxies as irrational as Hezbollah and the Houthis, and it's a hard thing to determine.
Got to lose.
I gotta go, King.
I know. Please tell me I gotta go.
I said I'd take a couple questions.
All right, you're the last.
I think she's increasing her credibility.
You have to take some more.
Toulouse, you're going to be the last one.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for spending some time here with us. There have obviously been a number of crises that the country has been facing over the past several days with the hurricane, with the port strike, with the situation in the Middle East. Can you talk about how your vice president, who is running for the presidency, has worked on these crises and what role she has played over the past several days?
Well, I'm in constant contact with her. She's aware we're singing from the same song sheet. She helped pass all the laws that are being employed now. She was a major player in everything we've done, including passage of legislation which we were told we could never pass. And so she's been, and her staff is interlocked with mine in terms of all the things we're doing.
Mr. President, did you ever think about
It's up to you, sir. Totally up to you, sir.
All right, go ahead. Yeah, Nandita, sir, no, sir. I didn't call on you, sir. I didn't call on you, Nandita.
Thank you.
Nandita, go, Nandita.
Mr. President,
Pope Francis calling for a day of prayer and fasting.
Prayer and fasting this Monday, October 7th. Your reaction, sir?
I will prayer and fast.
Acceptable to you in terms of Israel's response? How long are you okay with Israel bombing Lebanon? What is acceptable to you?
All right, guys, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
On Ukraine, have you made a decision on long-range weapons?
Do you want to reconsider dropping out of the race?
Well, that's something that has not been seen, apparently.
What made you want to come here today, Mr. President?
All right, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Stand back. Thank you.
He's done. Our White House team tells us that is the first time President Biden has come to the White House briefing room in order to answer a few questions, and he did about 10 questions, as far as I could tell. Everything from the trust in the elections that are out, the trust in the jobs numbers. The first question he was asked, Senator Marco Rubio, Republican of Florida, said that the job numbers were fake. He said that's the problem. The president's words that whenever MAGA doesn't like something, they call it fake. That's his thing. He's asked about the war in the Middle East, the expanding war in the Middle East. He said that he's rallying other countries to tamp it down. Those were his words. His relationship with Netanyahu, he says that the two governments are very close, that they're in constant contact. He didn't talk about his personal relationship with the Israeli prime minister, who has rebuffed Biden's entreaties again and again to slow down, even halt this war. And he was asked about also about his vice president, now the presidential candidate, since he stepped aside, Vice President Kamala Harris, and what her role has been. She says we've been in constant contact with her, and that she's been a part of everything that the administration has done. Let's bring in Jay O'Brien and our business reporter, Alexis Christoforous. So first, Jay, this was, we haven't seen this, President Biden come to the briefing room. It's partly, I think, because he's the guy who's been passed by, right? He's not running for the next term. He's a lame duck by definition. The cameras aren't on him naturally. He said, well, there's a lot of reporters over there. I've got some good news on jobs, good news on the strike. I'm going to go and deliver it myself.
Well, look, for past administrations, seeing the President of the United States in the White House press briefing room is not uncommon. For this administration, It is remarkable. I'm on a messaging app with all of the reporters that cover the Capitol and the White House for ABC News. And while you and I were on the air, Terry, my phone started to blow up going, Biden's going to the briefing room, Biden's going to the briefing room, Biden's walked to the briefing room. It is incredibly unusual. But you're right, he went there with good news to tout, particularly those jobs numbers. And he essentially declared, in a way, mission accomplished with this soft landing that we've heard the administration and the Fed and other financial apparatuses try to achieve with, bringing inflation down, but also not doing it in a way that harms the rest of the economy. What the president said is, quote, we had a, quote, economy of crisis to literally having the strongest in the world. He's referring, of course, to the post-COVID economy, to the way the U.S. economy is now. There were a number of things that he discussed in there that weren't about the economy. Just very quickly, our Selena Wang, our White House correspondent, our senior White House correspondent, asked President Biden a number of things as it relates to Israel's likely retaliation against Iran. He said, she asked him, quote, is it fair to say that you have little influence over Benjamin Netanyahu because various times, as you said, Netanyahu has defied President Biden. President Biden has asked him to tamp down some of his responses and some of his strikes, and Netanyahu and oftentimes has done the opposite. President Biden said no to that. She asked, how should the Israelis respond? He said, that's, quote, between me and them. And then there's one more thing to point out. He was asked if he is confident the 2024 election will be free and fair and peaceful. And that is, of course, noteworthy because the way the last election that he won ended with January 6th. And here's what he said. I'll read his words directly. Quote, I'm confident it will be free and fair. I don't know whether it will be peaceful. That is a striking statement from the President of the United States. He then goes on to criticize what he says is Trump's rhetoric that potentially leads to that outcome, Terry.
Right. Thank you, Jay. That was really the crucial question. I overlooked it. I can't read my own handwriting here is the problem. You must have better penmanship. But that the President of the United States says he knows that the coming election will be free and fair. He can't guarantee that it will be peaceful. Says something important about where we are as a country. And Alexis, let me go to you on, clearly there's been a big chip on Joe Biden's shoulder. He thinks he's run a pretty good presidency. Jobs numbers are up, the economic growth. A lot of countries in the world, he's right. They look at the United States economy and they say, boy, that's looking pretty good. Trying to get credit for it. Is there a sense, and that you have seen Vice President Harris kind of narrowing the gap on the economic issues in some ways with former President Trump. Is there a sense that maybe the mood of voters, which have had such harsh judgment on this economy, is shifting?
Possibly. And I just want to show you the numbers once again, those numbers that the president was just touting. No surprise that he is, because the economy and inflation issues number one for voters as we're going to be heading to the polls in just a few weeks. And these numbers, by any gauge, are spectacular. We were expecting 150,000 jobs added. We got 254. The unemployment rate still near a 50-year low. So, this is definitely favorable for this administration, and President Biden took advantage of that today. And when asked about Iran and Israel and whether or not Israel may retaliate by going after oil infrastructure, he actually said he would advise them not to touch oil infrastructure. He knows, economists know, that once you start messing with the oil supply, it can mean higher oil prices, it could mean higher prices at the gas pump, and all of that is inflationary. The last thing we want to see when we finally got inflation down near that 2% target for the Federal Reserve. The one thing this strong jobs report may do for the Fed, it may cause them to pause the next interest rate cut. They're going to meet in November. They may feel the economy is still overheated, that inflation's not put to bed yet, and that another interest rate cut may fan inflation again. I can tell you one thing, most economists I spoke to today do not believe we'll get an aggressive half-point cut in November. If anything, it might be that smaller quarter-point cut, Terry.
All right, Alexis Christoforous and Jay O'Brien, thanks for slicing and dicing what the president said in his first appearance in the briefing room.